Welcome to the NBA Triple Double Show powered by SportsMemo. I'm your host, Ronald Cabang from Wager Talk at UCapper Sports on Twitter. I'll be joined by Moneyline Matt from SportsMemo, Tony Finn from Wager Talk. We'll be talking about Game 4 here of the NBA Finals between the Heat and the Nuggets. Before we get into that game, though, I do want to talk about what we got going on over at SportsMemo and Wager Talk. We got the free live odds page going on over there every day. The deals pages has promos available from every single capper that has one available. There's also coupons and promo codes available there for seasonal or monthly packages. Cappers provide free picks and analysis on a daily basis along with their daily packages as well. So make sure you head over to sportsmemo.com to catch Matt. You can find myself and Tony Finn over at Wager Talk. Also, before you go after the show here, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube. With that said, let's get Matt and Tony up here with me. Oh, they are here. There you go. That's quick. Guys, we always open the show being transparent. And Game 3 was a good one for me, guys. I went 4-0 on Game 3. I had a couple big plays and then a couple small ones that hit. I had the full game under, the Heat team total under Denver first half, and then the one that I gave out on Wednesday's show was Jamal Murray over 12.5 rebounds and assists, which was, obviously like one of the smaller bets. But typically when I put out a best bet on the show, it's usually a premium play here. So glad we hit that one on the show for those who watched it. Matt, let's go to you here. How'd everything go for you?
Yeah, I'll be honest. We broke it down pretty well on the show, and I haven't been hitting as many as typical. So I kind of only went with one play. Wish I went with more because we talked about taking the Denver Nuggets, which that hit. We talked about taking the under, which that hit. We talked about taking the team total under, which that hit. And all I took was Jimmy Butler. And Jimmy Butler played well. He just didn't get many rebounds. He just didn't get many assists. And I decided to go points, rebounds, and assists. But we got another day of basketball. It is Game 4, looking to bounce back. I believe I'm 2-4 on the week, so definitely want to bounce back today. So as always, ready to break it down with you, Ron, and ready to break it down with Tony.
Yeah, Tony. How's everything going for you? Obviously it's Game 3 here. Game 3. How did Game 3 go for you as we head into Game 4?
Well, it's been as I want to say, and much like on both of you guys, it was good. Game 3 was good. Unfortunately, for Matt, he just didn't get didn't push the right button, which we've all done several times in our careers. So I went 2-1. The one I lost was I had a double on the Missouri. What he played 50. I think he played a total of 53 minutes for Missouri Tigers total. And there's been big questions about him, but long story short, Porter Jr. didn't get his double-double. In fact, again, he was shorted on minutes, or at least on the bench more than typically is, and there was a lot of questions about that. They got answered, at least semi or pseudo-answered by Coach Malone yesterday, but I did hit the under. I had a big ticket, 5%er on the under in that game, and additionally, I hit a same-game parlay, and that was a 3-team. It was basically with the DraftKings, so everyone knows. So I was able to do some alternative lines. Or I played an alternative total under 220.5. I played the Joker over his points, assists, and rebounds, and I had what else? And I had Denver on the money line. So nice little 3-pick at DraftKings, a 3-pick same game parlay that pays 3-1 on that. So I took that. So I hit those two. A nice day. I'm ready for Game 4.
I like it. All right. Well, let's go. Before we go into Game 4, just real quick recap of Game 3. I mean, obviously the Nuggets took care of business in Miami 109-94 to go up 2-1 on the series here. One thing we talked about on Wednesday, Matt, was sort of like a letdown offensively from the Heat side, and that definitely did happen. They shot 37% from the field. They got out rebounded 58-33. They got dominated in the paint too, giving up 60 points in the paint to the Nuggets. Another thing that I did notice, guys, the Heat won the turnover battle 13-4, and they still lost by 15 points. Typically, if you see at the end of the game, right, you see the end of the game, you see the box score, you see 13 turnovers and 4 on the other side, you would expect, at least I would expect the team with the 4 turnovers to be the team up at the end of the game, but that definitely wasn't the case. And Denver, obviously, you guys mentioned it, led by Murray and Jokic, both had triple doubles here. Christian Brown had a heck of a game, both offensively and defensively, and which kind of led to what you were talking about, Tony. MPJ playing 21 minutes only. That I believe his lowest amount of minutes played in a game this postseason. He struggled both offensively and defensively. So having someone athletic like Christian Brown come in and do what he did and be successful, they rode the hot hand basically. So we'll see what happens here in Game 4. On the Heat side, it was Butler and Bam, and then nobody else. We talked about how on Wednesday how there were a lot of role players that stepped up every single game, different role players stepping up every single game for the Heat, and that made a difference for them to get to this point. But in Game 3, there really was no role player step up for them at this time. In Game 2, right, the Heat played like they were okay with Jokic scoring as long as they could stop everybody else. In Game 3 here, it seemed like Mike Malone did it the other way around. He came back and said, let's allow Butler and Adebayo dominate the usage, keep everybody else from contributing, and that definitely worked. So we'll see what happens here in Game 4. From a betting perspective or from any type of analysis, Matt, let's go to you here. What are your thoughts here for Game 4?
Game 4, I'm definitely a lot of player props in this one. I'm expecting some players to bounce back. One guy that I'm definitely looking at here is actually Gabe Vincent. I think Gabe Vincent never could really get in a rhythm in the first half. He's not a guy that tends to get in foul troubles. Got 2 early fouls, got checked out early, came right back in, got his 3rd foul, so checked out. So I think a lot of that has to do with it. Gabe Vincent is a big momentum guy for the Miami Heat, and he's been a huge threat from beyond the arc. He's shooting 41% in the postseason at this point in time, so I think he's someone who I expect to step up, and we really haven't seen much from Max Strus just yet. I think his point prop is going to continue to go down a little bit. It might be around 8.5 for today's game. And if it is that line, I gave out a free play of Max Strus, I believe in Game 1, and the line was at 8.5. That ended up hitting. And actually, my free plays are going a lot better than my real plays right now. So just be like that. But, I expect Jimmy Butler, again, I think he's going to do a little better in terms of the assist and rebound category. He didn't really facilitate all that much. He didn't really attack the glass. And a lot of that had to do with Bam Adebayo gobbling up almost every single rebound. Bam played a great basketball game, but he's typically not someone I expect to get that volume of rebounds each and every game. And I do think it'll be a Jimmy Butler centered game. Again, whether that be the points, rebounds, and assists. I think that's probably pretty probable here. And, they're going to have to come out early and aggressive. I like maybe a Miami first quarter look or something along those lines. And then for the Denver Nuggets, I do think that Nikola Jokic is going to be the center, obviously. I think that Spoelstra is going to start throwing some different looks at Nikola Jokic. He's really been unanswered throughout this series and kind of doing everything he wants. He's been incredibly efficient. And, I understand how hard he is to stop. But, Bam Adebayo, once again, he's a 6'9" defender to Jokic's 7 foot. And he's giving up a lot of weight. It's a very tough matchup for him. So they do need to start throwing some different looks at him. Will they work? I'm not too sure. But I think the Heats need to start throwing some different things. And then in addition to that, I really think with Jamal Murray, you're going to start seeing a lot of hedging, some very, very hard hedging at the 3-point line where they're coming out, meeting him, not allowing him to get in a rhythm. So in terms of your look on the last episode, Ron, in terms of the points and assists, I'd actually like that again. I think there's going to be a lot of hedging with Murray. I think they're going to have to force that ball out of his hands. And with Michael Porter Jr., I give Malone a lot of credit here because, this is Michael Porter Jr.'s MO. It's either he's playing really good or it is just absolutely dreadful. And in the NBA Finals, you got to yank him quick because he's just one of those guys where when he gets in that zone, when he's playing bad, he doesn't move. He just sits there in the corner. There's no cutting. There's no rhythm. There's no trying to get other people involved. He just doesn't move. So I do applaud Malone, head coach Malone, in yanking him, give Christian Braun some extra minutes. And, because one thing with Christian Braun as well, very good defender. Very good defender along with that outside shot. That's a little spotty, but when he's making it, he's pretty good. He can knock that down, and that's huge for someone like Nikola Jokic when Michael Porter Jr. is missing shots like that. But for me, in this spot, I'm honestly going right back to the Nuggets. I think the Nuggets are too good. I think there are still so many mismatches throughout this court. And if it wasn't for Game 2 and the Heat winning in Denver, I think this would be a larger spread to the Denver Nuggets. Honestly, it reminds me of Allen Iverson against the Lakers. He had that big game in game 1, and the Lakers came and won the next 4. So this is kind of what I expect from this Denver Nuggets team. I think they get it here and then go back home and end this series, honestly. I think it's over in 5. I wish there was more basketball, but me personally, I think it's over in 5.
Yeah, that's an interesting take there. I mean, like obviously we see the zigzag, right, Matt? We're seeing the zigzag here, the win loss, win loss. But like you said, I think Denver kind of has their number. If you look, we talked about this before the series too, Matt. Since 2018, prior to this series, I think it was 9-1 or something, 9-1 in the last matchup, last 10 matchups between the Nuggets and the Heat that the Nuggets have won. Obviously now it's 11-2. Including the playoffs here in the finals, but they just seems like they've had the number of the Miami Heat there. Tony, let's go to you here. I know you hit the under in game 3. I also hit the under 2. I mean, sorry, the over. Was it? Sorry, the under. My bad. The under. The under. And I know you look at the total a little bit more than Matt does. I want to get your take on this because I have a look on the total as well, and I want to see if you agree on it. But for the most part, I'm expecting, after a loss in the playoffs with a Spo-led team, that the Heat come back with a strong defensive effort. And that's telling me that this should be an under-type game. Are you looking towards that direction from a total perspective?
Yeah, I absolutely am. For a couple reasons, and without reading off the short story on this game and how I see it playing out, and I've had lots of peers and coworkers and pundits that disagree with me, but what you saw in Game 4 is I don't think it's a microcosm of what's going to happen for the rest of the way, because I agree with Matt. I don't think there's much time left in this series, and I don't give Miami. Our job is to create situations, or at least outline situations with the highest probability. And I don't see a high probability of Miami, winning this series point blank. What you saw in game 4, I think is what you're going to get. And for Miami fans, that's discouraging. I'm quite certain, or they're telling me could not be more wrong, right? The Miami will bounce back. Here's the deal. The Joker and what he was able to do in Game 4. There was a few changes. They made a few changes as far as his facilitation goes, because of what Miami had basically adjusted to, right? And they don't have any answer. They have zero. First off, the height and the size disparity between these two teams limits Miami. They don't want to go half court. Somehow they have to disrupt Denver's half court offense. And Denver's pretty darn efficient in their half-court offense, especially with a team that's undersized or compared to them and should be wanting to play small, guys. They should be wanting to play small in this game. Denver's not crashing the board. They're not crashing the boards, guys. They don't want possessions to start in transition. Yet they out-rebounded Miami by 25 or whatever it was. And you guys both spoke about, well, at least you did, and that was, you see a team with 13 turnovers, you see a team with 4. What happened there is, if you look at what they did with the turnovers and what Miami did, or what Denver did with the turnovers, the 4 turnovers, Denver scored 8 points. The 13 turnovers, Miami only scored, I think it was 9 points. So the efficiency off turnovers, is big. And for the most part, guys, here it is. Denver wants to, or at least Miami wants to trade 3 points for 2 points. That they have to hit their 3-pointers. Cannot win unless they shoot for a high percentage beyond the arc. And their goal is, okay, we're going to protect the 3-point line. We're going to make Denver go inside, and it's not going to work. You saw that last game. Look what they outscored them in the paint. And Denver doesn't even try to really go to the paint. They facilitate again. They facilitate at the top of the key or right there in the circle of the free throw line, the cherry stripe, and game, set, match. What are you going to do? What system? What are you going to do? Here it is. I see an under here, unless Miami shoots for a very high percentage from the 3-point line. If they shoot from a high percentage from the 3-point line, then this game can go over 210, 212. We all three know that, right? The highest probability is that what I saw is what we're going to get. What I saw was a Miami team that's fatigued to some degree. I mean, you think about the games they've played at the emotional, not only at the physical level, but at the emotional level that Denver has not played. And they sweep LA. They 5 Miami. They pretty much had their way with Phoenix. That isn't the case. Really wasn't the case with Miami. They beat a 1 seed. They beat a 2 seed. Then they beat the team that all three of us really thought was the best team in the East. And here they are in the championship, and they're pretty tired. They're fatigued. Under. We get beat if Miami shoots for a high percentage from the 3-point line.
Yeah, I mean that's really good thing to say there. I mean, I think a lot of people think about fatigue and they think, just based off of, how many games they play, the minutes they play. But you're mentioning the emotional fatigue of how they've been going through the playoffs, right? They've been battling as underdogs since the beginning of the playoffs here, and they're in the finals. Nobody expected them to be here. Obviously, they did. But at this point, it hasn't gotten to the point where it's just too much now. And it seems like it has gotten to that point. Like they've already peaked, and now they're coming back down a little bit. That's what it seems like. And like you said, if they're not going to hit their 3-point shots like they did in game 2, then, that it's going to be a problem here. But we do know one thing, though, like I was talking about right before you started talking, like we expect Spo and this Heat team to come out defensively. You heard him after I don't know if you guys listened to the postgame presser, but Coach Spo, he was really pissed off about the 60 points that they gave up in the paint. So that's going to be a key component for them here in this game 4 to stop them, right? It's not like the Nuggets have been shooting lights out from 3, right? MPJ has been struggling. So it's maybe to the point where they're going to allow the Nuggets to try to, basically force them and say, we'll let you shoot the 3. If you're not going to make it, at least you're not going to get into the paint. So I think, the further we go into the playoffs, right, every possession counts a little bit more. Defense has started to become more important for every single possession. And that's and it really starts here in game 4, in my opinion. I think if you look at trends, or if you go back and we just look at trends specifically, and when I say Coach Spo led teams off of a loss, it's not like I'm just like kind of talking out my ass. There's numbers that back this. Since last season in the playoffs, the Heat are 11-4 straight up and against the spread, also 10-5 to the under following a loss. That includes 6-2 straight up and against the spread this season. Also 6-2 to the under this season as well. I think in every single game this season, in this postseason, following a loss, they've limited their opponent under their team total as well. So it is a major focus for them following losses to key in on the defensive aspect of the game. And that's kind of why I look towards the under as well. I think one thing you mentioned, Matt, too, was that first quarter on the Miami side. They have to come out with a sense of urgency. Being at home as well is a key component. I think maybe the Heat would probably be, I think their best quarter to win would be that first quarter, in my opinion, right? Because they're gonna come out real strong. But I wanted to ask you from a prop perspective, right? We talked about you mentioned Gabe Vincent bouncing back a little bit. On the Nuggets side, we talked on Wednesday about MPJ, right? And how we thought he was gonna come out and they were gonna attack with him, see how he does, and if he struggles, they would take him out early, and that's kind of what we saw. Do you think that happens again here in game 4, that MPJ has another short leash? And if that's the case, do we see Christian Brown, right? Christian Brown come in and do the same things that he did in game 3? Or does it not really matter what MPJ does in this first quarter? We're going to see that same rotation in game 3. Maybe we look at Christian Brown props to the over because of that.
Yeah, I'll be honest. With Michael Porter Jr., this really isn't a surprise to me. This is who he is. He does this in the regular season. He's an incredibly streaky shooter. He's an incredibly streaky player. But with that being said, I would be surprised if he did not go over his prop at least once in this series. And he's one of those guys too with alternative lines. He oftentimes has a lot of value after he's had numerous bad games in a row, him having a 20-plus game or even a 25-plus game. This is a very, very streaky shooter. He can make a lot of continuous shots in a row. But to your point, Ron, I do think he will once again have a very short leash. So it's a risky play because, again, if he comes out and he's ice cold, he's going to get yanked because Christian Brown is in a rhythm. He's playing very good, and it's not just on the offensive side of things. It's also on the defensive side of things. And Michael Porter Jr. does have very nice length. He's good at rebounding the basketball. And in terms of guarding some guys, he's efficient, but he doesn't move his feet incredibly well. And Christian Braun does. Christian Braun is willing to get into your body, to fight you a little bit. So I do think that he's earned probably 25 minutes. And if MPJ is playing bad, he's going to get near that 30 range, honestly. And a lot of that does have to do with the defense. Me personally, as you guys know, I like my same game parlays. I like my mini same game parlays, stuff like that. I'll probably have some exposure to Michael Porter Jr. just to get some high alternative odds, essentially, because that value will be there. So for me, I do think he is in a spot to potentially bounce back, but it is a risky play just because he's going to have that short leash. He's very easily going to get yanked. Now, from the Miami Heat side, I think for the Miami Heat to keep this game close or to potentially win it, it can't be just Jimmy and Bam. One of those guys have to come along for the ride, whether you like Gabe Vincent, whether you like Max Strus, whether it's Caleb Martin, Kyle Lowry. I actually do like Kyle Lowry assists. He's actually been pretty efficient in terms of assists throughout this series, just one thing that I am looking at. But from those kind of secondary players, one of those guys has to come along for the ride. And to Tony's point, they also have to shoot well from the outside. So for me, the two that I would be looking at, and they're going to be low numbers, will be Max Strus and Gabe Vincent. It can't just be Jimmy and Bam. But I do think it's going to be a lower scoring game. Once again, I think it's going to be very physical. And I think a lot of that's going to come from Miami early. So again, maybe Miami Heat, a first quarter spread, first quarter money line, or even a Denver Nuggets, maybe first half under, something along those lines. I think the Heat are going to come out and play very hard on the defensive end, and I think the rest will let them play a little bit. So I really do like all of those looks.
I like it. I like that. I like that look right there. It makes a lot of sense for those who do those SGPs, to find where the value is. And with MPJ playing so poorly, obviously, like you said, those numbers are going to be a lot lower than you would expect, for someone of his caliber. So if he does, bounce back, he's going to bounce back in a big way, in my opinion. Obviously, guys, we broke down the game. We looked at a few different angles from a prop perspective. Talked about the total. Talked about the side here a little bit. Let's go to the best bet section now. Let's go to the best bet section. I did have a question on the props of Jokic here, and I know Tony is looking in that direction. So let's go to you first, Tony. What's your best bet for today's show? Also, what do you got going over at Wager Talk?
The Wager Talk, I have had big tickets on every finals game. 3 big tickets, or at least 3 games, 3 big tickets, and 3 winners. And I zigzagged. Really, I played the under in game 1. I didn't like the adjustment in game 2, so I went over. And I'll talk a little bit about that just briefly. And then last game, we talked about it on the show. All of us really liked the under, and the under was a no sweat, skinny dip with the pretty girl next door. So it really was. It was just too easy, right? And the situation with Matt, he talked about Porter. The one thing about Malone is if he doesn't think you're working, he doesn't think you're all in, you're sitting. He's not shy about it. Now, obviously, there's a couple guys he doesn't do that with because they're his boss, and that's Jokic and Murray. And that's just the way the NBA works, right? I mean, LeBron runs the Lakers, or at least he did. And any criticism and any kind of critiquing needs to start with LeBron. It's just the way it is. He has a lot of influence on what happens with the team. Malone, very transparent. He said, "Listen, I'm not down on Porter Jr. He's cold. He's not shooting very well. And here's the deal: if you're not shooting well and you're not defending, you're not playing, and that's just it." So I've been big on Porter Jr. being able to hit some threes. That Miami's can't really. They have nobody to guard him, and he's had wide open looks, guys. He still can't hit the shot. He really can't. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, with bet, I'm going to go aside of that. I'm going to go Jokic. And I talked about it here on the first of the show, and they have no answer. Miami has zero answer for Jokic unless they do something different. Now, that's the $1 million question. That's the wild card in this game 4. Is Miami desperate? Are they desperate? Do they feel like, listen, we got to have this game? Or are they the same Miami team we've seen through this playoffs where It's one game at a time. Every one man goes down, one man steps up. I think this Bosa is a smart guy. He's an Hall of Famer coach. He's not there yet. He hasn't been voted in. He is a Hall of Famer coach. Hall of Fame. First ballot, in my opinion. He's got to be creative, guys. But no matter how creative he gets, Jokic is going to get his PAG, PAR, in points and rebounds alone, no matter what happens. I mean, 53, 53 and a half, 51 and a half. I've had, there's been numbers kind of jumping around on that one. He's going to get those. The assists are icing. And if Miami is creative and they make him facilitate, then a lot of his rebounds will be subsidized by his assists, which would be instead of 17, 20 rebounds, 17 assists. So give me over 53 and a half on Jokic. Points, assists, rebounds. It's a slam dunk. And I feel the same way about my 5%er that I have up there for tonight. I think that I'm not going to give you a percentage. I'm not going to tell you what my simulations would put that at. But I'm telling you, I like this play, and you can have it for just $35 only at WagerTalk.
I like it. One thing that you talked about, and I while you were breaking it down, it made a lot of sense to me because we talked about how the Heat have to focus on the defensive side of the ball and limiting the points in the paint, right? That's going to allow MPJ to have more open shots like he's had all season long. So, if he gets hot early, he might have those minutes. I really do believe that. So, but like what you guys both said, it's going to be a short leash, guys. So if he doesn't make those early shots, it's going to be a problem. All right, let's go to Matt here. What's your best bet for today's show? Also, what do you got going on over at SportsMemo?
Yeah, guys, I have 2 plays over at SportsMemo right now, and one of them will be this best bet. And just wanted to comment on Tony's play because I love that. Once again, we talked about this since game 1. Every single game, I am running Nikola Jokic triple-double. We're 2-1 right now. I'm going to keep rolling with it. And I feel like this game right here is another great spot because they have to do something. They have to throw doubles. They have to throw traps. They have to do something. So to your guys' point, I think MPJ will get a lot of open looks. Is he going to knock him down now? Is he ready? I personally, like I said, I will have some exposure. It'll be like same game parlays with some crazy odds, something along those lines. But I do think there is a possibility that MPJ could finally come out and have a good game because of what Nikola Jokic is doing. I mean, he's shooting 59% from the field. Oh my God. But that's not my best bet. Just wanted to go on a little tangent about Jokic there. My best bet for today is actually going to be Gabe Vincent, who we talked a lot about before. And right now, last game, Gabe Vincent did not have a very good game. He had 7 points. He shot 2 for 10 from the field, but he's been one of the most efficient players for the Miami Heat and has become a player that you can depend on for the Miami Heat as well. Last game, like I talked about, Gabe Vincent got in some foul trouble, couldn't get in a rhythm in the first half, got 2 early fouls, had to sit down, came right back in, then had that weird foul where he was kind of standing there and Aaron Gordon ran into him. Then he had to check right back out. So a lot of basketball is getting in a rhythm. Are you seeing some shots going down? Are you getting in the flow of the game? And Gabe Vincent was never really able to do that. Now in this spot, I really do like him to bounce back, have a solid outing here. He's averaging 11 shots per game. He's shooting 41% from beyond the arc. And to both of your guys' points, for this Heat team to keep it close, for them to compete, they need to shoot well from beyond the arc. And this is a Denver Nuggets team that really hasn't been hedging around the screens or anything along those lines. So I do think Gabe Vincent is going to get some open looks. I also think someone like Jimmy Butler is going to be a lot more aggressive. Again, he got to the free throw line last game. I think he's going to continue to attack and do so. And when that happens, the defense kind of comes around you in the paint. And then just maybe Gabe Vincent will be that guy on the outside, ready to spot up and knock some shots down. So for me, I really do like the look of Gabe Vincent. This is a line at 12.5 points. And, he's hit this in his last 3 out of 5 games, playing very well once again. Last game was just one of those spots where, you get in foul trouble sometimes and you have to sit. Again, like I said, it's a rhythm game. Just wasn't there. Now, I think he bounces back here. He's been averaging double-digit shots every single game. So tonight, Gabe Vincent over 12.5 points. Mute, Ron.
Sorry about that, guys. I think just to add on to what you were saying, Matt, I think out of all the guys, he has been the most important role player throughout the whole postseason. So for someone to bounce back, I think I definitely agree that it would be him. I think that's a good look there, 12.5 points. Also, one thing to mention too, I think we went from, I forgot what his points prop was in game 2, but it went down to like 11 or 12 in game 3. And to me, I was like, man, it must be telling us a story. The reason why it's coming down is because it's going to be an under game 2. He ended up going under. I was telling one of my buddies, he was like, yeah, I think this game business line is too low. I was like, man, I think defensively they're going to make some adjustments here. And he ended up going under. So I think having it come up another point, actually, after having a down game, makes sense to me that he goes over. All right, so my turn here. My best bet is going to be on the under, something that we talked about during the show here. And some strong trends actually back this play here. I touch on the SDQL stuff. If you guys follow Wager Talk and Ralph Michaels and all these guys, they touch on they use like SDQL, and that's something that I use here as well in my capping process. And it's one trend that I've looked at since 2002 in the NBA Finals. Game 4s are 15-4-1 to the under. Like I said earlier, I think the longer the series goes, especially in the finals, every possession counts just a little bit more, and defenses show up towards towards the end of these series because of how important each possession is. They want to limit the amount of scoring on the opposing team. If you add that game 3 went under and the total went down from game 3 to game 4, and it's now down to, I think it opened at 211. I gave it out to my clients at 211. It's now 210.5, and I feel like it's still an opportunity to go down the closer we get to tip off. So if you like it, I would say take it now. More would be better than later, because it can continue to go down. I could actually see this closing at like a 209.5. But if you add that game 3 went under and the total went down, it's 8-0-1 to the under. So not a single game since 2002, not a single game 4 has gone over in that specific situation. And it goes with the game plan as well, right? We expect Miami to come out with a sense of urgency that they're going to slow the pace down a little bit further, and also they have to limit the Nuggets in the post. They're going to key in on the defensive side of the ball here. And, just some of the trends that I mentioned earlier with how the Heat tend to cover, win, and also keep games under, that's telling me that they're keeping their opponents under their team total as well in those same situations. I think one thing that we mentioned earlier about how important defensively they have to make those adjustments in the paint. The Nuggets have struggled offensively from 3. So if we see them come out and get these open shots and struggle from 3, it's definitely going to be one of those games where neither team might hit 100. So that's the way I'm going with this one. I like the fact that some of the trends point to the under, some of the game plan and the game flow that I expect to happen here in game 4 point to the under. And I just don't think they brought the total down low enough. So I took the under here. 211, like I said, I gave that to my clients on, right after the game, actually. And then, I think I would play it down to 209. I think that would be the lowest I go if it happens to come down to that. From a premium side here, I do have a actual 5% play. I have a play that I like even better than this full game under, and that's available over at Wager Talk. I also have a couple WNBA plays available today. Currently number 1 in WNBA profit over at Wager Talk. And so they set up a deal for me for the rest of the WNBA season-long package. It goes all the way through the WNBA Finals for $179. I think it's like the normal price is like $400 or something like that. So it's a big discount. So if you want a full season-long package in the WNBA, it's $179. I just recommend that because typically we see softer lines in the WNBA, especially right now. Like the other day, I gave out a number the night in the early morning. 2 hours later, the total steamed up 4 points within the next 2 hours. So that's how soft some of these lines are in the WNBA, especially with MLB starting to be the more important sport that everyone's looking at because the NBA is going away pretty soon here. So WNBA continues to have soft lines, and having a package versus like the daily picks available, you get to take advantage of us putting in the number at the current the play at the current number that we see, especially in the morning or the night before. With that said, guys, Matt and Tony, I appreciate you guys for coming in and doing the show here today for Game 4. Our next show is Game 5 on Monday. Actually, so no game this weekend in the NBA. We'll be back on Monday to discuss Game 5. Until then, guys, good luck with our reaction. Peace.
Peace.
And there will